going to show you a picture. Hopefully, I'm going to show you a picture. The studious rugby league fans amongst you, I'm not going to ask for hands up, but yeah, some of you will know who the character in that, maybe even just general sports fans, this is a famous enough moment in rugby league, will recognise the occasion and the player in the picture. Although I thought there'd be a few more like, oh yeah, I know what that is. Anyway, it's the water splash final. There's a BBC iPlayer documentary about it. It's the one that they shouldn't have played because of the weather, because he chucked it down, but they did because of the swell of the crowd, where the guy who picked up the Lance Trod Man of the Match award, having had an unbelievable game out of position, right at the death, maybe this is the bit you'll remember, he missed us an absolute sitter of a kick, just right under the posts. And he later, so I'm told, went back to, because he's a Wakey player, went back to Wakey Trinity and kicked it 20 times in his slippers. And it sat really heavily around this guy called Don Fox's shoulders, for those of you who know your rugby league, for the rest of his life. And it made for, if you've not seen the documentary, it makes for an incredible documentary. But that's not the story I'm going to tell you. In the late 90s, I went to Wakey College to do the illustrious Sports BTEC. Don't know if anybody has had that privilege. There were three main student groups. One of the student groups was the uber sporty types. Amongst them were some lads who went on to become professional rugby players, Gaz Rayner, Graham Laws and Mark Moxon. They were there and they looked like some of you lot do, like filled out, looking good, Nick, all the rest of it. And you could see, oh, they're there because they're sporty. Then there were other lads that were there because they were sports science. They were smart. So there was the sporty ones and the sports sciencey ones. And then there was my group who were doing the resits. And somehow we all had slightly greasy hair and just an awkwardness about us. You could kind of see us. And if there was a new one of us came into college, we'd be like, he's one of us. He's going to be a resit person. Our maths lecturer for that year walked in. And he sort of stood in front of us. And he was clearly a substitute teacher. Do you know you can just spot a substitute teacher? That's a substitute teacher. Spindly looking, quiet, older guy who just very quietly said his name was Don. And off we went for the next 4 months, learning maths, ambling along, ready to fail again at maths was sort of my storyline. And then one of the proper sporty lads came in. He was called Mark Moxon. I remember him putting his hand on my shoulder. I think he was playing and then he's gone into management. I think he was at Dewsbury or something like that. And he said, do you know who that is? And us 8 greasy-haired lads looked round. We didn't really know anybody was. We were just happy to be somewhere. And we looked round, and we were like, no, we don't know who he is. He said, that's Don Fox. He's a legend. So this was the 90s. So you couldn't get your phone out and Google it, because that's what you do now. So somebody brought in some newspaper. I'm from the time of newspaper cuttings. Somebody brought in some newspaper cuttings and then wheeled in a television for us to watch a reel of his highlights. And sure enough, 8 of us doing these resets, greasy-haired, sort of no-hopers, were bowled away by this legend who looked like an incredibly ordinary guy that was stood before us. Anyway, as it would happen that year, those 8 greasy-haired lads got outstanding GCSE results for Wakefield College, some of the best ever. I failed, is the place to say it, all of my GCSEs, especially maths. I got terrible grades at maths. And then when I sat it again, I went from a E to a B+, which my mum, and she didn't mean any harm when she said it, said, that's a bit of a miracle, son. Do you know, sometimes when a loose compliment can be a bit of an insult, it was a bit like that. Why did we do so well? It was a small class group, it could have been that. Maybe it was just our time to shine. Maybe we were smarter than we looked. But I think what happened, genuinely think this is what happened, we'd encountered somebody, spindly-looking ordinary guy stood before us every Wednesday morning for maths, who made us genuinely believe that anything was possible for us 8 guys. If he was a legend, if he played at Wembley, if he could do that, then surely we could do better than a F at maths. I'll be honest with you, he wasn't even a very good teacher. It wasn't Don. It was just who he was. Don Fox taught me maths. And what happened was, and I'm going to use this word which seems a bit highbrow for 8 greasy-haired lads, it was a transcendent moment for us. I want us to think about the subject of transcendence for a second. A dictionary definition says that it's an experience that goes past our normal limits, or the ability to achieve our normal limits. In Latin, it literally means to climb over or go beyond when something is transcendent. And unbelievably, that is what had happened, something like that. Something bigger than was really possible for us 8 lads is what happened that year. There's a few things I love about watching Cass. And I don't know about you, I'm already ready for the next season. I'm all ready for the first game. I don't know when it's going to be, if it's a Saturday night, if it's a Friday night game. But there's some things I just really love about Cass, about watching the game. I love Under the Lights, love the first look at the stadium, love the first big hits. I feel sorry for whoever of you that is who's going to take that, but it's a beautiful thing to watch. I love a good offload. Love seeing it, Cass, when you get an older lady with 2 pints in her hands. I don't think you get anywhere else in the world is old ladies walking around with huge amounts of beer. I see them walking past and it lifts my soul. I think, man, what is going on with this world? But what I love most about Cass, genuinely love most about Cass, because I'm one of these who either walks or cycles back home down Weldon Road, and I walk back down there, and when you've played well or when you've played with heart, the fans walking home change their conversation. People go home believing. It's a really wonderful thing. And nobody else, it's only you lads, can do that to the people of Cass, I reckon. I don't think politicians will be able to pull it off. They go home believing. And they don't just go home believing in Cass as a rugby team, although they start by believing in Cass as a rugby team. But they go home thinking more of themselves, thinking more of their families, thinking more of their town, thinking more of their jobs. It's an incredibly transcendent thing. It's an amazing thing to walk back down Weldon Road when there's a buzz like that. It's an incredible thing to give. It's transcendent. I want to show you one quote from a guy called Viktor Frankl. I don't know if you've heard of Viktor Frankl. He's worth a read. You'll have some like sports sciencey sort of books and sort of thinking books, I'm sure, if you're a professional athlete. If you're looking for, you'll have some on happiness and meaning. If you're looking for one that can really cut it, read this guy, Viktor Frankl. Read anybody who survived Auschwitz. That's his story. He writes about finding meaning and happiness. And he says, so just try and wrestle with this quote, see if you can figure out what this means. Self-actualization cannot be attained if it is made an end in itself, but only as a side effect of transcendence. That's a bit lofty, innit, for just before Christmas. You can't be bothered, can you, go in there? Just have a dig into that. What it's actually saying is self-actualization, being our best self, reaching our total capacity, being the best version of us, knowing ourselves fully, reaching our full potential won't just happen by us trying to do it. It won't just happen just because we want it to. I think this is what he's saying. This is what Frankl found out as he's in the hellhole of Auschwitz anyway. He realized it was about knowing that there is something bigger and better going on outside. Something worthy of his endeavors. If he knew that there was something bigger and better and worthy of his endeavors, then he could reach his full potential. And he could reach his full potential anywhere. He could reach it in the hellhole of Auschwitz. Christmas has rolled around again. I don't know if you've noticed. There's lots of lights. One of the things it does to us is it causes us, or it asks us, to believe again. Or to want to believe again. Do you get that? You want things to be perfect at Christmas. We dare to think that our broken family might just get back together. We hope for it. We most of the time we dare even let our minds go there, but at Christmas time we do. We hope to sit around a table with those we love and everything just be perfect. We actually change our mindset because we want that for everybody else, even people we don't like very much. We're more generous than we can afford to be at Christmas. And we get into a mindset of being a bit more forgiving at Christmas. Christmas is one of those seasons of life, one of those punctuation marks of the year that actually moves us. It moves our hearts. In the middle of the Christmas story, So I don't know if we could have some of the text up. There's a bunch of shepherds. Basically, the shepherds are in the Christmas story, as far as I can figure out, because they're nobodies. At the center of the Christmas story, you've got some nobodies, some greasy-haired, re-sitting nobodies. And as you see it in the Christmas card, it looks really pretty, doesn't it? But what the story actually says about what happens with the angel is this angel comes out of nowhere and scares them to death. But the angel says, don't be afraid. You know those words from the angel? Do not be afraid. And it says, don't be afraid, not because the angel's not scary. I think angels are pretty scary if you actually see them, if you believe that. Because you're going to find, don't be afraid, not because we're not scary, but because you're going to find something that'll be a sign to you that things can change for everyone. Joy for all people is the message that the shepherds get from the angels. Now, if you follow the rest of the story through, what happens? There's a buzzword that I've noticed that some professional sports people say. Andy Murray started it, I think. Maybe it was somebody before him. Maybe it was an American thing. Do you know the let's go thing? Let's go. Like sometimes when you gene yourselves up, I'm sure some of you lot do it, you're never going to admit to it now, but that let's go phrase, that athletic, inspirational phrase, let's go. What I'd say to you at this point of the story is the shepherds, when they see this sign, are moved. They shout to each other, let's go. And they are moved in a way that they never stop from. They at the start of a movement that never stops. And then they find this baby in this stable. I don't know if you've heard of this baby. We talk about this baby a lot here. But it goes on to do some stuff. This baby would go on to do some stuff that people would talk about for a very long time. And they leave that scene. And the way that the story lines up, the way that the story bears out, means that these shepherds can't stop talking about what they saw in that stable. And the way that the story lines up and bears out means that people won't stop talking about what happened in that stable. And as they go and tell the story, we see that people are amazed. And as we look around us, even still today, this Christmas story, this celebration that we have, people are still enthralled and amazed and moved by this story, I would suggest. What the Christian Christmas story puts to us is there is a reason we are moved, or we want to be moved. There's a reason that we believe, or we want to believe. There's something at the bottom of all those Christmassy longings that we have that's worthwhile, that's worth digging around and worth actually getting to the bottom of and finding. Sometimes all you need is a tap on the shoulder from somebody to say to you, do you know who that is? That's a legend. That's our Christmas message this year.